What's up, class? So actually, this is our very first lecture series recording. I have my very handsome husband, Landon, with me. Flip the camera. Woohoo! He made it! So he's our audience today for the first two lectures. It'll be Landon. Then we'll have guest star teachers for the rest of the recordings. But if you haven't already, I know you've actually probably already read the Bible and shared about it with the class, but you thought you were going to get out of this. But please, will you pause the video and have the students, you don't need to pause it, baby. Pause the video and have the students pray out loud. So you will pray out loud, and your prompt today is just saying something up to the Lord in gratitude. So please pause the video here, have everyone pray, go in a loop, and then we'll continue the lecture after that. Okay, you just prayed. Great job. You guys made it happen. All right, today we're going to be continuing our lecture series that we began last week, or not last week, but on Monday, about the lymphatic system. So let's do some Groundhog Day review, and then we'll get into the lecture. I feel like I'm like in a YouTube video. Okay, so the first thing, what are the three main roles of the lymphatic system? We discussed two of them last class. Landon has no idea what we talked about last class, so we'll see what he comes up with. What do you think?
Immune response. I'm thinking like kind of waste clearance.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking of kind of fat distribution, chylomicron transport.
Okay, yes, so, wow, good job. Today we'll be talking about the immune response, so that's the third one. But yeah, like you said, we talked about absorbing fats, so we talked about chylomicron, so it's impressive. And we talked about like clearing fluid, so that was prevention of swelling in the interstitial space. So that was awesome. What is the medical term for swelling?
Is it like edema?
Yes, edema is correct. Good job. Students, I told Landon to just kind of sometimes answer right and sometimes not. So you have to be on the lookout if he answers wrong. Okay, edema is correct.
Yes.
How would you define the interstitial fluid in your own words? So interstitial fluid we went over last class. How would you put that into your own words?
I feel like it's like the sprinkler system where like the blood will push through, and then some places it's able to get out, and what it gets out onto is like the space in between the sprinkler system.
Okay, so what would the interstitial fluid be?
The interstitial fluid, what would it be? Oh no.
In your metaphor.
The interstitial fluid in my metaphor would be like the water on the plants in between the
Nice,
sprinklers.
yeah, that works. Nice student, Landon.
Thanks.
Yeah, we talked about, right, interstitial fluid just being that in-between fluid. So we have our arteries and our veins all throughout our body that carry the blood, and then we have our cells that make up our tissues, but there's actually space, microscopic space, in between that. And that's the interstitial space. And in between that is fluid, so that different things can be transported to the cells and then back into the vessels themselves. So super good. Okay. How does swelling accumulate in the first place? Like, why would you have edema in someone's feet? Like, how does swelling even happen?
Oh. I think it could be because you have a different pressure system. I think it could be because of either your hydrostatic or your oncotic pressure.
That is true. We did not talk about those pressures.
Oh. Well, oncotic pressure would be like the proteins inside your blood. And those proteins, the main one's albumin, pulls water in. So like someone with like liver disease or who's an alcoholic has low albumin because it's made in that liver. And so they get ascites. They get like these really distended bellies. They get a lot of fluid overload, or a high pressure system where the pipes get squeezed. And so at the capillaries, wherever, it's going to get pushed out.
Nice.
Did I answer right, Ms. Cose?
Yeah. Get yourself a smart husband. Okay, so we talked about, right, like what Landon was saying, there's this hydrostatic pressure and oncotic pressure. We didn't go into each of those pressure systems, But essentially, at the level of our blood capillaries, there's water and oxygen and different types of molecules leaving the blood and entering the interstitial space. And there's more water leaving the blood vessels than actually is returning back into them. So because of that, there's an excess of fluid in the interstitial space. And so that's how the building up of that edema or that swelling happens. Okay. Which part of the lymphatic system absorbs this excess water, and where does it drain back into?
Which part of the lymphatic system? I don't know.
You don't know? They look like this. What are these?
Oh, wow. This looks like, I don't know, like green. It looks like, I don't know.
Well, we remember that the part of the lymphatic system that reabsorbs this excess fluid is the lymphatic capillaries. So just like we have capillaries in the arteries and veins, we have them as well for the lymphatic system. And this will take up that excess fluid, and then it'll eventually, let's see if the next slide we have that, it'll dump it back into the veins. So what are the two veins that the lymphatic system drains back into?
One is one of the veins. So one of the circumflex veins.
It's not circumflex. It's like similar to the branches coming off of the aorta, the artery ones. They're the same names, but they're the veins.
Huh. Is it the femoral vein?
No.
Is it the inguinal vein?
No.
Is it the IVC?
No, but that's close. That's close.
It's the carotid.
No. Okay. The two veins are the left and right subclavian vein. What, baby?
I think I said that.
You did not say subclavian. You said IVC, the inferior vena cava. But the left and right subclavian vein then drains into what? What main vein goes into the right atria?
Superior vena cava.
Oh, yes, I didn't have a question for that, but the superior vena cava is correct. Nice. So we learned that when we were going through the heart circulation. All right, lastly, what two lymphatic ducts drain into the left subclavian? So which ones come into this? Left subclavian.
Is it the thoracic duct?
Yes, that's one of them. What's the other one?
Is it the right lymphatic duct?
No.
Oh, man.
The two ones are the thoracic duct. So that's this entire part of your body is going to be draining into that. And the sternochyli. So that's the one that is the bottom half of your body. That's all going to come up into the left subclavian. And then the right lymphatic duct goes into the right side. So actually that left duct is doing a lot more work than the right side. Okay. We talked about that. All right, I think it's one of our last review questions. The lymphatic system also helps with fat absorption. Why aren't fats absorbed the same way that carbohydrates and proteins are absorbed? I'll flip it to yourself.
Is it because of the lipophilic nature of the fats? You need a certain way to esterize them before they can be absorbed. So you do that as you would esterify them, which is like an O-chem thing because they're really long in fat, and so they don't like to be around the water. And that's how they're being absorbed, essentially. So you have to have a system to like modify them before they can do that.
Maybe.
Is that right?
That is right.
Yes.
What we discussed, though, is because they do need that special packaging, they're packed into these giant molecules called chylomicrons. So we talked about this, and the size of a chylomicron is a lot larger than a glucose molecule or even a protein. And so chylomicrons, because they're so big, they can't fit through the gaps in the enterocytes or in our digestive cells in the intestines. And so they actually need to enter through the interstitial space and then into the lymphatic duct when then they're dumped into the blood circulation. So the size of them is like the main reason why. Nice. Okay, so we've already been over these last two roles of the lymphatic system, and today we're moving on to initiating our immune response, which is one of the biggest things when we think of lymphatics. So to start today off, I'm actually going to start with a brain teaser, so let's see if you can get this. It says, I'm not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. And I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. So Landon, you want to try to answer that? What's the answer to this brain teaser? Do you have an answer?
No.
Can we tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, the answer to this is...
Is it a
Do you have any
tree?
guesses?
Is it a tree?
No, it's
It
not
needs
a tree.
water, like a fungi or mold. But they
No.
love water too.
No, do you have any other guesses?
Is it biological?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
It's part of nature.
Nature. Okay, I'm not alive, but I grow. It's like time. Water doesn't kill time though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think, to give you a hint, the end of this kind of gives it away.
Water
Kills me.
Oh, is it like fire?
Yes, it's fire!
Yes!
Let's go! So I'm not alive, but I grow, so fire can grow and spread. Don't have lungs, but I need air. If you put fire in a vacuum, it kills it, and then water kills fire. So
Oh, let's go.
a fire! You got it.
Yes.
So,
I'm getting all the
all right, let's start. When we say that the lymphatic system initiates the immune response, I want to just recall some things that we've already learned about the immune response. So, what aspects of immunity have we already learned about in class? You can pause and talk about it. What are some things you know about immunity, Landon?
Well, you have your innate immune system, which is very good at the initial immune response.
True. What are some cells that we have in our immune system?
You have neutrophils.
What cell type is that, generally?
I mean, it's
What's a broad name for those types of cells? Lymphocyte, make it even more simple.
White blood cells.
White blood cells. So we have white blood cells in our immune system. And remember, class, we made trading cards for our white blood cells. So what are some names of white blood cells that you know?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I mean, you have like your T cells and B cells.
Yep, those are our lymphocytes. We actually have them all up here. So we learned them. Monocytes, eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils. And the other thing we learned about our immune system was during our blood typing lecture when we were talking about antigens being on our blood cells, which are just protein markers. So how do antigens relate to the immune response? What do you think?
I think antigens relate to the immune response because that is almost like the ticket that all the other immune cells look at to target what they're attacking.
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at the antigen and you're like, oh, is this foreign or is this myself? And so that's what these cells do, is they recognize foreign invaders by the antigens that are on their surface. So those are things we've already learned about. So we want to hone in today, though, on one specific white blood cell type, which is lymphocytes, which we've already learned about. Because lymphocytes have everything to do with the lymphatic system. They both have that root word lymph. So the white blood cell lymphocyte, its job is to recognize and respond to foreign substances. So the main types we're going to cover today, and real quick, class, what is this type of slide called when we see it on a microscope? What is this type of slide called? Yeah, Landon in the front row.
I should know this.
Very
type
simple.
of stain?
Not a stain, even simpler.
Oh, just like a blood smear.
No, like looking at any type of tissue under a microscope.
I'm overthinking this.
You see, you may beat Landon on this one. It starts with an H.
Oh, a histology slide?
Yes, a histology slide.
Oh, I was thinking.
I know, you're going way too deep. A histology slide, right? So we're going to cover 3 main lymphocyte cell types: B cells, T cells, and natural killer cells, which we've already talked a little bit about these, but we're going to go in much greater depth today. So what is the other white blood cell on this histology slide? What type of white blood cell is it? Landon?
Is that neutrophil?
A neutrophil, yes!
Multi-lobed.
Neutrophil is correct. Remember, neutrophils have these multi-lobed nuclei, and they shoot those net things. I don't know if you remember that. But how do lymphocytes recognize that something is foreign in the body? We kind of already talked about it. Really simple.
Oh, you're talking about the antigens, right?
Antigens, yes. A lymphocyte will recognize an antigen, and it will realize that it's a foreign invader. We talked about this with antibodies as well, so we'll go into that. But yeah, a protein marker on a pathogen is an antigen. That's how lymphocytes know it's foreign pathogen. So, how does a lymphocyte respond to a pathogen? There's 4 main stages to this. It's recognition, activation, multiplication, carrying out an immune action, and memory formation. So don't copy all these down right now into your notes. We're going to go through each stage. So the first stage is just recognition. And like we said, lymphocytes have receptors on their surface. So the lymphocyte itself, the immune cell, has a receptor that binds to a specific antigen. So it's almost like an antibody in that way. Remember, we said that we have like blood typing antibodies. So this one is an A, so it can connect to an A. It's almost like an antibody is specific to an antigen, but now the lymphocytes themselves have a receptor on it. Say if this was a lymphocyte, the lymphocyte itself, this cell has its own receptor that is specific to this antigen. So, if a receptor matches an antigen, so if a lymphocyte finally finds the pathogen that it's supposed to bind up to or match, then it will activate it. So up here, this is like a GIF of that matching game. Like, if you've ever played that card game where you're trying to find the match of like the square and the square, it's almost like that. The lymphocyte is looking around and it's looking for the pathogen that its receptor will bind to. And if it finds it, then it knows, oh, hey, we've been invaded by that pathogen. So I put a little GIF up here of Doug the bounty hunter because he looks for certain criminals, and Doug the bounty hunter will find them and then take them to prison. I think that's how it works. Yes, Lane in the front.
Is it a dog, the bounty hunter?
I think it is dog. No, I think it's Doug.
It's dog.
It's dog? His name's Dog?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that. So that's how a lymphocyte recognizes a pathogen in the body. Next, after the lymphocyte has been activated by that antigen match, just like that card game, the lymphocyte does something crazy. It undergoes something called clonal expansion. Clonal expansion. And what this means is that lymphocyte is specific to that pathogen. So let's say if it was like a COVID, let's say this is COVID, and it has a specific COVID antigen. And our lymphocyte is a specific receptor to the COVID antigen. And this activates it. This lymphocyte will go, you know what? I want to divide 1 billion times or however many times and replicate myself because I am unique to respond to that exact pathogen that we've been invaded by. So you can see that up here. This B cell that finds the pathogen that it's specific to, it will divide and replicate, and each cell, as it divides and replicates, the daughter cells divide and replicate. So it's this crazy, crazy clonal expansion where like so many cells come from just one activation of a lymphocyte. And this reminded me a lot of in Star Wars where there's like the clones, they're making all the clones. So it's like the same person, but they're just like making a ton of them. What is the, what's the like island that they're made on?
Camino.
Camino. Okay, see, I knew you would know that. Camino, point to Landon. Like, they're being made over and over, the same person from Camino. Lymphocytes do this exact same thing. They're like, oh, hey, we're specific to this pathogen. I need to remake myself so we can all mount an attack on this exact pathogen. In this case of our example, all attacking COVID. Okay, the third step is once we've colonially expanded, like, what's the side that had all the clones on it? The Empire?
No, the Republic.
The Republic? Okay, sorry. I'm not all studied up on my Star Wars.
The Empire, babe.
The Empire, or the Republic had all the clones. The same way, our body now has all these lymphocytes that is ready to attack the pathogen. And once we have all these lymphocytes ready to attack, each of them carry out a different immune response. So we're just going to go through the 3 right now. B cells, starting with B cells. B cells produce antibodies that are specific to the pathogen. So as a reminder, what do antibodies do? We learned about that in our blood typing section. What do antibodies do? Landon.
Antibodies is your body's way of watching out for future illnesses and diseases you've already dealt with.
And then how does an antibody interact with a pathogen?
Well, depending on the antibody type, so there's IgA,
Maybe go as simple as you can go.
Okay, it just recognizes the antigen because it has the receptor for it, essentially.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So an antibody will attach to the antigen on a pathogen. So we can go back to our previous example. Say if this was an antibody, and it flags the pathogen to be destroyed by other immune cells. So remember, we have like the macrophages and the neutrophils. Yeah, we're flagging it to alert like a neutrophil to go and attack the pathogen and kill the pathogenic cell. So remember, we use this example of how lumberjacks will go through a forest that needs to be taken down because maybe some trees have eaten away, or termites have eaten away at certain trees. And so they mark them with an X with a paint spray can to mark them for destruction. It's the same thing. The antibodies work in a very similar way. They connect to that antigen that's on the pathogen, and they flag it for destruction. But something that we didn't cover before is that antibodies themselves can actually neutralize a pathogen. And the way that this works is it blocks certain things that are on the pathogen, and this is called steric hindrance. So let's say for a pathogen to work, it needed to use this one like antigen on its surface because the antigen is the thing that like poisoned something. An antibody can come by and connect to this protein, and then it inhibits the pathogen from doing the bad thing. So let me give you an example, and then Landon, maybe you can give an example too. But let's say if I had a charger, like a computer charger, and I plugged it into a wall, and then I took a piece of like Play-Doh and I put it on the port that would go into my computer. I've like neutralized that charger's ability to charge a computer because I blocked it. That's called steric hindrance. So the charger itself still works. It still works. But I put Play-Doh on the part that goes into your computer, so I'm blocking it from actually doing its job. I need to remove the Play-Doh to then actually use it again. So that's kind of what's happening with an antibody when it's neutralizing a pathogen. Do you have any other example? No, you liked that one. Let's go. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so we already know what B cells do to carry our response. Now we're to the T cells. So T cells, there's 2 types. One's the cytotoxic T cell, and this T cell will kill our body's infected cells to stop pathogens from spreading. And then there's helper T cells. So I'm going to give another example of this in a later thing, but essentially cytotoxic T cells will have our body do something that's called apoptosis, or programmed cell death, or some people say cell suicide, when a cell knows, oh, I'm infected by a disease, our body will be like, hey, it's better for you to kind of kill yourself off so you don't infect everybody else than for you to keep living and infect other things and be a host. And so essentially the cytotoxic T cells will encourage them to do apoptosis. One of the things up here that I included was they have a protein called perforin that will actually make holes in the cell membrane of a cell that's infected. So the cell membrane will have all these holes in it, and it will lead to apoptosis. It will lead to the cell killing itself for the sake of the other cells. Okay, helper T cells though. When you think of a helper T cell, I want you to think of a 911 dispatcher. So, has anyone ever had to call 911 in the class before? And have you ever had to call 911?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
From what?
I was in a store and someone just had like a seizure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so then, and you were the one talking to the dispatcher?
Yeah, then I think there was, what else I have to call them? Oh, there was like, some guy like showed up on a porch like all bloodied up. Someone had like attacked him.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then what did the 911 dispatcher do? Did they ask you certain questions?
They were asking certain questions.
What did they ask you?
They're like, where are you? What's going on? Why are you calling?
Okay, and then what did they do to help you?
The first one wasn't helpful.
Well, the second one.
It was helpful. They sent people over to take care of it.
Okay, so they got certain people. What types of people did they send to help?
They sent police officers. They sent paramedics. They sent the firemen.
Okay, that's
firefighters.
Cool. I also have called 911 before. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
And do you want to know how it happened?
Yeah, sure.
So I called 911 because my babysitter, she pretended to die when she was babysitting us to test us. I was like 6 years old. And I'm not even kidding. And so my brother and I had this dilemma because she's laying on the ground pretending to be dead. And we ran over to her and we were like, I don't think she's breathing. She like held her breath when we went over to her. And so we went and got her home phone and we called 911. And the second that we called them, she like got up and was like, good job, you passed the test. And she like never ran this by my parents. She just like did it. And
what'd they say?
They like flipped out. I don't think she ever watched us again. But I didn't get as far as the dispatcher. But your example is great, Landon, because helper T cells are just like the 911 dispatcher. They take a consensus of the situation. They also have those receptors. So they notice that a pathogen has invaded the body, and then they recruit all the other white blood cell types to come in, and they activate them, and they tell them what to do to bring them to the site to take care of the pathogen, to like kill the pathogen. But what they do to do that is they release cytokines. Cytokines. You guys need to know this. Make sure to write it down. Cytokines are just chemical messages that activate immune cells, make them multiply, and call them to the site of infection. So as the 911 dispatcher gets the scene, takes a consensus, then they go and message the fire department or the paramedics or the police, and they get them to the scene. Those calls and messages to the different types of help would be like the cytokines, showing them exactly where they need to go. That's what the helper T cell does. All right, last one, natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are similar to cytotoxic T cells in that they destroy virus-infected or tumor cells. And they do that by triggering apoptosis, just like we talked about. So both natural killer cells and cytotoxic T cells, they don't directly attack the pathogen cell. They actually attack and kill the cells of our own body that are infected. And so this made me think of like zombie movies or The Old Yeller. I don't actually know if any of the students have read The Old Yeller. If you had, it's very sad because...
What happens at the end of
it? There's this boy who has a really sweet dog and they become best friends, but then at the end, the dog gets rabies. He gets bit by a pig or something, gets rabies, and the boy has to shoot the dog. And I know, it's really sad. But the boy has to shoot the dog because the dog's gonna infect them and all their friends and all their animals.
No, it's not.
And so it's needed. But in the same way, like in a zombie apocalypse, like say if we were in a community and we were fighting all the zombies, and say like Zach 2 got bit by a zombie, we would have to like tell Zach that he needed to either leave the community or die, because he would then infect all of us with the zombie like disease. So in the same way, cytotoxic T cells recognize infected cells in our body and tell them to commit apoptosis. They force them to commit apoptosis to kill themselves, so that they don't continue infecting all the other cells in our body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So finally, step 4, memory formation. The first time we're infected with a new pathogen, only a few lymphocytes have the receptor specific to that pathogen. But after the infection, those B and T cells mature and they become something called memory cells. Now, memory cells will then activate more quickly and target a pathogen more quickly the next time we experience it. So, for example, I got COVID one time, and that stinks, it's COVID. But then the next time I got COVID, the length of the time I had it was a lot shorter, and I recovered much quicker. That's because my lymphocytes remembered that virus, and then were able to respond in a more efficient way and a quicker way. And this is the exact same thing as this. Can you solve this brain teaser? I'm not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What's the answer? B! Fire! It's fire!
Well, give me a second to think about it.
We've already learned this. So the second time you saw this brain teaser, it was much quicker to know the answer. Like, I already know this. Like, we already went through this.
I feel dumb now.
And like, that's easy now. And that's the same thing with lymphocytes. They have a memory of the problems, the pathogens they faced before. The next time they see it, it's a lot easier to respond, react, get the right answer on the brain teaser. Fire. All right. So finally, to put this all together, how does these lymphocytes, learning about them, connect to our lymphatic system? Great question. Well, our primary lymphatic organs are the ones that are making the B and T cells. So the thymus makes T cells. T cells are called T cells because they're made in the thymus. So thymus T, you'll never forget it. Our thymus is right in the middle of our chest, like underneath our breastbone, in between kind of where our lungs are at and above our heart, directly above our heart. So that's where our thymus is at. The thymus makes these T cells, so it produces them. So it's a lymphatic organ. The other place is bone marrow. So I didn't put a picture up here, but bone marrow makes B cells. So do you guys know if it's red bone marrow or yellow bone marrow that makes these B cells? What do you think?
I think it's red.
Yes. Why do you think it's red?
I think yellow has to do with almost like heat, and then there's one other thing it does. I just know yellow does something else. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Right now.
So the red has the hematopoietic stem cells, so they can turn into white blood cells, where as the yellow, I think it's like the mesenchymal stem cells.
Yeah, something like that.
And so they turn into cartilage and like, I don't remember what the other thing was, but those can turn into that. So it's the progenitor cell essentially that we're worried about. So the red bone marrow can make the B cells. Okay, last thing. Have you ever heard of the term lymph nodes? In what context have you heard this term? And do you know where any of your lymph nodes are? What do you think?
Where are the lymph nodes? Lymph nodes are in your lymphatic system, and you have them kind of all over, and they're like you want me to tell it, like explain what it is, or?
No.
Yeah.
I can explain it, but before you went to medical school, what did you associate lymph nodes with?
Being sick.
Yeah, being sick. And what happens when you're sick with the lymph nodes?
They get enlarged.
Yeah, they swell, totally. So like we know, oh, when I'm starting to feel sick, I sometimes get like these large swelling lymph nodes in my neck. And that's what we're seeing right here is this swollen lymph node in the neck. But lymph nodes are throughout the entire lymphatic system, like Landon said. And you see them, they're kind of these knots that are within the lymphatic capillaries. So the question is what do they actually do? Well, the lymph nodes are filtering and monitoring the lymph that passes through them to get back up and drain into the veins we were talking about. And when that lymph enters through all these afferent lymph vessels, when it enters, it has to go through the cortex of the lymph node and then through the medulla and then up and out, then to continue on through the lymphatic capillaries and vessels. And so as it's coming through here, there's a high concentration of B cells and T cells in the cortex of this lymph node. So what do you think happens there?
Gives it a really good opportunity to check out what's being in the body right now and mount a response.
Exactly. So as the lymph passes through, this gives all the B cells and T cells an opportunity to look at the antigens on the different cells and see if there's a pathogen in there. Like, is there something that's invading the body? And if there is one, then those B cells and T cells can activate, then multiply, go through clonal expansion, and all of that multiplication and activation with all the cytokines and all the different cells coming and being brought to this scene where the pathogen was found, this causes this lymph node to swell. And so that's why there's swelling when we find a virus or a pathogen, bacteria in your body, is because of all this expansion that's happening in the lymph node. So it traps pathogens, foreign particles, and even cancer cells. Yeah, exactly. Last thing is the spleen. So where is the spleen? What quadrant, what abdominal quadrant is the spleen found in?
Left upper quadrant.
Left upper quadrant is correct. The left upper quadrant. So what other organs do we have in our left upper quadrant?
Yeah, part of the colon coming through, but like the only ever kind of like complete one that you associate up there, you're really just thinking spleen.
And there's another important one in the left upper quadrant.
Kind of like part of the pancreas coming over, or?
Nope. Another one.
Another one.
Has to do with eating.
Are you talking about like the stomach?
Yeah, your stomach. Your stomach is in the left upper quadrant. And like Landon said, your like half of your pancreas kind of peeks over and some of your colon. But the spleen is essentially a giant lymph node, but for the blood vessels. So the spleen acts just like a lymph node does. It has those like lymphocytes, the B cells and T cells stored in the spleen. And as blood comes through, it monitors the different pathogens in there in the white pulp. So those B cells and T cells are in the white pulp, which is rich in lymphocytes. They monitor it, and then they can put an immune response into the blood, like in the blood. Another thing the spleen does that we've talked about before is that it also removes old or dying red blood cells, so then they can be just new ones can be replacing the ones that are old. So that's the role of the spleen. So that's it today. Next up, we're gonna have Landon come and present you guys with a clinical application problem based on this lecture, and you'll have the next like 5 to 7 minutes when he's done explaining to figure it out, work with your table partner and write it down on a piece of paper. And after you write it down, you're gonna turn that in to our professor in the class, and then Landon will tell you guys the answer. So let's see what he has to say.
Hi class, you just heard about the lymphatic system from my wife, Miss Cose. Now I'm here to give you a little application and patient presentation that has to do with that. And so I'm going to tell you a patient. I want you guys to think through it and think through just maybe some of the processes going on in that. And I'll give you 2 questions to work through, and then I'll explain it after that. So we have a patient presenting to the emergency department, 17-year-old male, presents with left-sided chest pain, left-sided chest abdominal pain. They come in, they're in severe pain, you get their vitals, they've got blood pressure of like 90/60, heart rate 160, temps 98, respirations 25. They're in acute distress, You get their history, you're checking them out, they're clutching their left side. 2 weeks ago, they had a viral illness. They had gone to their urgent care, and they had fatigue. They were very tired. They had a headache, and they had a fever. And so on exam, they have left upper quadrant pain. Sometimes you can get mistaken for the chest, but it was left upper quadrant pain, pain with breathing, pain in the shoulder. He found out that he experienced this pain after getting tackled at a football practice that day. And so question number one I want you to think of is, what is causing the low blood pressure? What organ is involved? That'll help in the left upper quadrant. It was talked about in the lecture. And two is, what sickness did he probably have that led to that? And then pause, think about that, write it down. If you need to look it up, you can do that. And then give you guys a second, and I'll explain it, and then kind of what the presentation is. Okay, so hopefully you guys had a chance to look that up and then have some good answers. I'm sure you guys figured it out. You're very smart. So what organ was involved? So patient had splenic rupture, so spleen was involved. Spleen is highly vascular, and he had a recent viral illness that's recently he had was mono. So Epstein-Barr virus, so mononucleosis, or like the kissing virus, as I'm sure some of you have had or are aware. So it makes you very tired. What it is a viral infection of B lymphocytes. And so what you get with that is a patient coming in who's very tired, they're exhausted, they might have some kind of pharyngitis, so pharyngeal erythema. And then a hallmark too is posterior cervical lymphadenopathy. So posterior cervical lymph nodes on the back side of your sternocleidomastoid. So you're looking at sternocleidomastoid, you can kind of feel elongate in front of it and the back side. These would be posterior ones. So you're feeling along there, you feel some lymph node enlargement. That is not nearly but close to pathognomonic, which means that when you have it, essentially there's diagnosis for mono. So tired, posterior cervical lymphadenopathy, viral illness, and if you do a blood smear and do a donation test, you'll see that there's atypical, it almost looks like atypical T cells, but it's actually the B cells infected and the T cells are attacking it. So that's why the lymph nodes are enlarged. But then that also causes B cell proliferation, particularly in the spleen. Now when that happens after mono, you get kind of a splenic, spleen enlarges, the capsule on the spleen thins out. Spleen is highly vascular. So if you get someone coming in who's had mono, what you're gonna tell them is, hey, for the next at least like 4 to 6 weeks, no athletic activity. So I don't want you to do anything with contact sports, anything that causes you to get hit. Because what happens is if the spleen gets hit, if you get hit on that side, it can rupture and you can like have internal bleeding. So that's the presentation for today. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Woohoo! I have a question.
Yeah.
If the spleen is enlarged and then it ruptures, how quickly would you need to get to the ER to would you die from bleeding out if you didn't know, or what would that?
Most of the people that I'm aware of present pretty soon after
because they're in so much pain.
Yeah, it's more of the pain.
Okay. And then does the surgeon just go in and remove the ruptured spleen? Is that essentially what they do?
That I'm not totally sure about.
Okay, good, sweet. All right, well, thank you, darling.
Yeah.
Great job.